Frank Sinatra was a notorious womanizer during his heyday who had a penchant for sleeping with every woman he could. He wasn't above throwing money around to get the woman he wanted, but the woman that Frank gladly paid $20,000 a year for wasn't his lover. Instead, she actually served a much more interesting function. Join Facts First, as fans can't believe that Frank Sinatra paid $20,000 for this woman. Frank Sinatra loved to keep up appearances. It should come as no surprise to Frank's biggest fans that the crooner was particular about the way he looked. This was particularly true during the star's heyday when his fraternizing was at its peak. Frank became known as much for his impeccable style as for his talent, and he could rarely be found looking disheveled or unkempt. Frank attempted to make his dashing appearance seem as if it took no effort, and he was largely successful. But the inside scoop from those who knew the singer best has shown some light on how much work he put into his looks. Actress Shirley MacLaine used to be a good friend of Sinatra's, and she has recalled fondly how she used to watch as Frank would go about making himself up for his various public appearances. It seems Frank put more care into his looks than she did, and she could hardly believe her eyes as she watched all the elaborate procedures the star had to go through to look how he did. Although Frank spent a great deal of his time drinking, gambling, and barely sleeping, his appearance made it hard to tell that he didn't take good care of himself. Shirley noted it was ironic Frank should care so much about his looks when he could be seen in his personal life fraternizing with mafia members, drinking, gambling, and cheating on his spouses. Perhaps Frank's obsessive insistence on keeping up appearances came from a place of guilt. Or maybe the star was simply afraid of the public finding out who he really was. Frank's strict grooming standards. To keep up appearances, Frank Sinatra had to keep incredibly strict standards about his looks. He was known for excessive hygiene practices and impeccably tailored suits. He was also always exceptionally groomed. But it seems the hair on his head wasn't always his own. He was a long-time user of toupees. Frank's hair started thinning fairly early on, and the star's ego wouldn't allow him to be seen in public without his impeccable hairdo. Therefore, he was forced to turn to toupees to fill the hole on his head. Just like with Frank's suits, his toupees were custom-made for him by the best in the business. The singer was also sure to keep numerous extra toupees on hand in case he needed a new look or replacement. Frank's toupee lady. The lugging around of the star's hairpieces was actually a full-time job, and one that paid very well. The person Frank put in charge of carrying around his toupees was an inconspicuous-looking little old lady with gray hair. She could constantly be seen following behind Frank with a giant bag of toupees, with the singer apparently requiring her to carry around 30 at a time. According to the little old lady, Frank then had another 30 he was carrying on his own person. It's doubtful Frank could have needed all these toupees in one day, but he wanted to be prepared. For her services, the little old woman who carried around Frank's toupees was given around $400 a week or $20,000 a year. She went with him wherever he went, whether he was performing a show or acting in a film. Most people eventually caught on to what her job was, and it wasn't exactly a secret. A surprising number of stars have worn toupees over the course of Hollywood history. He certainly wasn't the only person of his stature to need a toupee to keep up appearances. Before we tell you more about his hairpieces, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. How many hairpieces did Frank carry around? Frank's go-to hairpiece was a traditional black one that he could be seen wearing the majority of the time. But that didn't stop him from paying Helen Turpin $20,000 a year to carry around 30 backup toupees. Frank's toupee lady was handsomely paid. Helen's salary would be $180,000. That's no small sum. The care he put into his toupees paid off for the majority of Frank's career, as most people didn't even realize the singer's hair wasn't his own. But those who knew Frank have shared that the star's taste in toupees seemed to dwindle towards the end of his life, and he began to favor synthetic hairpieces to ones made with natural hair. Back when Frank's hairpieces were always on point, one of the men who helped ensure their quality was Joseph Paris. Joseph is still around making hairpieces for celebrities today. Joseph Paris, the man behind Frank's toupees. Toupees might be a lot more complicated than most people realize, and that's where Joseph Paris comes in. Joseph worked with Frank during his early career, and now he works with current celebrities to ensure they look just as dapper as Frank did. It might surprise you to learn about the high-profile clientele who can be found in Joseph's office, as he's rumored to have served notable clients like Burt Reynolds, Charlie Sheen, Matthew McConaughey, Ashton Kutcher, and Ben Affleck. Paris certainly has a vast amount of knowledge about toupees, and it's surprising to learn how much work goes in to ensuring a toupee looks natural when sitting on a star's head. According to Joseph, it's better for stars to use clips to keep their toupees attached to their heads than to try to use some kind of medical bonding, because that can become unsanitary and start to stink. Frank Sinatra would come to Joseph to get custom hairpieces. In order to customize a hairpiece for a client, measurements have to be made, and the exact consistency of hair has to be determined. More celebrities than you realize wear toupees. Since Frank Sinatra's heyday, numerous other methods for dealing with hair loss have been offered up to the public, but it seems the toupee stands amongst all of them as the most popular. There have been numerous other stars who have relied on toupees. Ted Danson is one such star, and it appears he's been utilizing toupees to hide his hair loss since the days of Cheers. John Wayne started using one in 1948, and he was never one to hide the fact that he had to seek extra help to cover up his lessening hair. He used custom-made hairpieces crafted from human hair, as did Humphrey Bogart. Burt Reynolds hid his toupee usage from the public until the revolution of toupee receipts during his bankruptcy trial made the fact impossible to conceal. Receipts showed Burt had spent upwards of $100,000 over the course of his career. Sean Connery is another star with a toupee, with some rumors claiming the Scottish actor had to use hairpieces to hide his receding hairline as far back as his James Bond day. And Frank Sinatra's fellow Rat Pack member Bing Crosby was another star who famously wore a hairpiece. Unlike Frank, Bing eventually came to terms with his loss of hair, going without his toupee for a string of WW2 USO shows. It's time to hear from you. Were you surprised to find out Frank Sinatra wore toupees throughout most of his career? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.